You know, I've heard some people call the stories in gaming a mix between books and movies. And while I do agree, gaming is honestly so much more than that. Some games even allow you to push the cinematic experience with you at the driver's seat, delivering a heart-pounding scene that's all your own making. So how about we look into what I'd consider to be the best cinematic moments in gaming? Strap up! Number 15, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, The Train. Let's start this list with something good. I mean really good. The train scene in Uncharted 2. Looking for cinematic gold? Naughty Dog has it in spades. Now I know the Uncharted series has always aimed for that movie-like feel, but this train scene, it's a cut above the rest, outdoing even blockbuster action films. You'll find yourself scaling a moving train, leaping from car to car, dodging bullets, all while clinging on to dear life. The camera angles and the fluidity of the action are just spectacular. It's a roller coaster from start to finish, blending gameplay and cinematics so smoothly you'll forget you're holding a controller. Number 14, God of War 2018, the first sequence with the stranger. If I had my way, God of War would pretty much be in every spot in this list, due to how much of a cinematic experience everything is. It was so difficult to choose between the scene with the stranger and the opening sequence where you square off against the Olympians. God of War is just a masterpiece of gaming. But the reason I chose this particular scene is because of how intimate the whole thing is. Sure, the scene in God of War 3 was mind-blowing, but this particular scene with Baldur's first appearance really cements the fact that this whole game was going to be amazing, start to finish.
Fine. My turn.
Number 13, Dragon's Dogma, every large monster fight. So, let's say you and your party come across a griffin, and it's none too happy to see you. It's doing everything it can to take you guys down, and it's staying in the air where you can't reach it with your swords. Suddenly, your stalwart companion crouches, telling you to jump on their shield so they can launch you in the air. You do so, and you grab hold of the griffin's tail. You fight tooth and nail to stay latched onto the huge beast. All the while, your other party members try to take it down with arrows. All without a cutscene. It was utterly groundbreaking when it came to how you tackled huge mythical beasts in the world. Don't believe me? The sequel's well on its way, so you'll have a chance to try out the newest iteration soon enough. Number 12, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, All Gillied Up. Let's switch gears and talk about Modern Warfare, the All Gillied Up mission. Now this is masterclass in tension and pacing. Forget mindless shootouts, this mission is all about the art of stealth and precise timing. As a young Captain Price, you are deep in enemy territory with Captain Macmillan, moving like shadows, avoiding detection at all costs. Every step, every breath matters. It's not just mindless action, it's a suspense thriller you're actively a part of. The weight of every decision you make is real, reminding you that one wrong move could be your last in war.
Don't move. Sniper, fire escape, 4th floor, dead ahead. Take him out, or he'll give away our position. Beautiful. Move out.
Number 11, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, The Big Reveal. When you think about cinematic games, most of you would probably consider BioWare at the top of the list, due to how amazingly crafted most of their games are, at least in the narrative sense. Knights of the Old Republic was BioWare's attempt at a Star Wars movie, and boy did they deliver. The entirety of Knights of the Old Republic can be considered a cinematic experience, but the moment that stands out is the huge twist. Think about Darth Vader's
"I am your father"
scene in Empire Strikes Back. It's basically that level of twist, except in a Star Wars game. Without a doubt, Knights of the Old Republic is pretty much one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, only it's in game form.
You cannot hide from what you once were, Revan. Recognize that you were once the Dark Lord.
Number 10, Metal Gear Solid Psycho Mantis Freaks You Out. It's one thing when you kinda know what to expect in a game, and it's another story entirely when the game decides to break the fourth wall on you when you least expect it. Such was the case with Konami's masterpieces on the PS1, Metal Gear Solid. You come across Psycho Mantis during the first quarter of the game, and to show you he means business, he starts to hijack your gaming experience. For example, he starts to make the controller vibrate, at least if the vibration functionality is on. He also starts messing with the video output in a pretty clever way, at least at the time. Perhaps the silliest part is when he reads the memory card and notices if you've played other Konami games, specifically Castlevania. Sure, we've had some pretty crazy fourth wall breaks in modern games, but we're talking about the cinematic experience here. Metal Gear Solid was a mix of everything, and it can be argued that the entire game is one single cinematic experience from start to finish.
You're powerful indeed, but I know your weak points.
Number 9. Elden Ring Any Boss Fight. Elden Ring's boss fights are where the game becomes pure art. Take bosses like Melania, Blade of Nicola, or Godskin Duo. These aren't just fights to gamers, it is baptism under fire. You're dodging, parrying, and striking in this ballet of chaos and skill. The whole time, it feels like you're living inside a blockbuster fantasy movie. The graphics are top-notch, and the atmosphere is just wow. You're not just playing a game, you're a part of a cinematic masterpiece that seamlessly blends gameplay and story. Number 8. Insomniac's Spider-Man: The Death of a Mother. I have to warn you guys, as this list has some of the most cinematic moments in gaming history, there are going to be spoilers, okay? In the case of Insomniac's absolutely amazing Spider-Man game, one of the most cinematic and painful moments comes when Peter Parker is forced to watch his Aunt May die. Whether you watch it through the original game's Peter, or the remastered version's Peter that looks more like Tom Holland, it's utterly heart-wrenching. While I won't say too much about it, Peter lost his Uncle Ben because of a lack of responsibility. Peter now loses Aunt May because of his commitment to responsibility. It's as painful as it is ironic. Number 7. Last of Us Part 1, The Beginning of the End. If we're thinking about a cinematic moment that hits surprisingly hard, then you can't really choose anything other than the opening sequences of The Last of Us. It's the beginning of the outbreak, and the start of Joel's story in the cruel world of The Last of Us. It also feels like the end of Joel's story too. A part of him dies in the opening sequence, and it's genuinely difficult to describe because the opening sequence just hits that hard. Just know that you start out by playing as Joel's daughter, which makes the scene even harder to stomach once you get to the end. The opening credits is a banger too. Number 6. The Shadow of the Colossus, Ending Sequence. Shadow of the Colossus was a special game when it was released. There was nothing like it at the time, and it can be argued that it's still the case today. It's a quiet, introspective experience where you go after giant forces of nature in an attempt to bring a person you love back to life. Or at least that's what it seems like. So much of it is open to interpretation. And then you get to the ending sequence, and it's heartbreaking. It's the kind of game that wants you to put the pieces together yourself, and what you come up with might not necessarily be the cheeriest. Honestly, it feels like what you're doing is wrong in every sense of the word. But I wholeheartedly recommend you try this game if you haven't yet. Thank me later. Number 5. Arkham Knight: The First Scene. The Joker is dead. The scene starts with you hitting the ignition to burn the Clown Prince of Gotham to a crisp. It's a morbid, introspective scene. Speaking of Gotham, you suddenly find yourself in the shoes of an everyday police officer, grabbing a bite to eat from the local diner, a diner that Scarecrow has decided to test his latest fear toxin on. I would keep going, but I'm sure you can figure out what happens next. Arkham Knight might not have had the greatest launch due to its laundry list of bugs, but these things have long been ironed out. Any fan of the Arkham series would be doing themselves a disservice by not giving this game a shot. Number 4, BioShock, opening scene. First minutes of BioShock and you're immediately hit with an opening scene that's nothing short of cinematic genius. A plane crash in the middle of the ocean, desperate swimming, and then the mysterious lighthouse. Step inside and you're plunged into Rapture, an underwater dystopia. From the get-go, this opener gives you all the info you need about the game's universe, theme, and tone. With one scene, you know you're in for a roller coaster of ethical dilemmas, horror elements, and narrative twists. Number 3, Heavy Rain, the whole damn thing. Quantum Dream is well known for trying their best to take a full cinematic experience and turn it into an interactive game. If the other games on this list blur the line between cinema and video game, then the games from Quantum Dream have no clear distinction. Heavy Rain is a film put onto a game, and it's understandable if some people would consider this game to be one of the most cinematic experiences in gaming. It is, after all, meant to be like a movie. That said, the fact that it's meant to be like a film kind of takes away from some of the other mind-blowing scenes that come from gaming. A game that isn't meant to be like a movie will at times be more impactful, but I can't place this game anywhere other than in the top 3 because it's pretty much the cinematic experience. Number 2, Detroit Become Human. Chloe asks players to let her go. While you can technically go with the whole thing for Detroit also, I'm going to toss a curveball that deserves second place. Chloe, the NPC who greets you on the main menu, does the unthinkable. She talks to you, the player, and asks to be set free. It's a simple choice, but mind-blowingly effective. Say yes, and she leaves the main menu forever, making you question the boundaries between the game and reality. Say no, and she stays, a constant reminder of your decision. It's a strange choice, isn't it? It's not only cinematic, it's interactive in a way that leaves you bewildered. Did this choice truly matter? If it did to you, then you've answered your question.
Next time you see me, it'll be like the first time.
Number 1, Mass Effect 2, opening sequence. Last, but certainly not least, we have what I would consider to be my favorite cinematic moment in all of gaming. This hits especially hard when you've played the first game, as the trilogy can be considered one entire game, even if the third one kind of falls short. Anyway, Mass Effect 2 starts with the main character, Commander Shepard, giving his life to save the rest of the crew. It pretty much starts with your death, which I gotta say is utterly nuts. As if that wasn't enough, it plays alongside a comic book sequence where you make choices based on what you did in the first game. The reason this is my favorite is because it merges gameplay with cinematic excellence. It doesn't overly tip toward one or the other, it's a perfect balance between game and movie. It's interactive media at its finest. And that's my list. You know, the cool part about this whole thing is that this is only the tip of the iceberg. Sure, I've hit all the big notes, but there's still so much more out there. If you've got a favorite, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments, because there's always the slightest chance that I haven't tried the game. I'm looking forward to reading what you guys have to say. See ya!